boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. This is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And you know, the Fantastic Four marketing hasn't exactly been the best, I would argue. I think the Fantastic Four trailers have shown way too much of the movie out there. I think all of like these extended clips that they've been showing basically gave us the entire story of the movie before anybody ever even went to the theaters out there. And then, of course, all the interviews have been same kind of like nonsense, kind of garbage we've seen throughout the past with the marketing when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least over the past few years, especially everything post-Endgame. And it literally was just more like how Sue Storm is the key to everything, how she's the true leader of the whole movie out there, how literally it's one of those, like, the movie's just got a bunch of feminine energy. I mean, we've gone over a bunch of these clips. We've gone over a bunch of this kind of stuff over and over again. And obviously, Pedro Pascal has never been one in the past to hide his feelings politically as far as the way he thinks about things and, of course, the way he thinks about anybody that disagrees with him on any of his favorite little identity politics nonsense garbage that he wants to trout out there for a bunch of virtue signal points. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just all of that is now going on, because as the movie has now officially released in theaters, the interviews are still going on. And as the movie's box office starts to show signs of collapsing and could potentially turn into a disastrous dumpster fire, just like so many other things we've seen post-Endgame for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, well, we now have another one of the cast jumping in on the whole situation, because, boys and girls, there's a lovely little interview we're going to show you here in just a minute that literally shows the actor that plays the Thing seemingly implying that they would love to throw President Trump and anybody else that agrees with his ideology directly into space. Yes, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that correctly, because as you can see over here from the headline at thatparkplace.com, Pedro Pascal appears to high-five Fantastic Four co-star over the idea of throwing President Trump into space. Right now, what's the premise behind all of this? The interviewer's out there asking, what would you do with your powers if you had them in real life? Like, Johnny Storm's answer was very wholesome. You know what I mean? He'd light the fires for a family barbecue. You know, he'd have a family barbecue with everybody showing up and all of that kind of stuff, and he wouldn't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. But of course, when you get to the actor who plays the Thing, aka Ben Grimm, of course you can't. These Hollywood actors, these narcissistic, prideful little possessed by the spirit of the age psychopaths, simply cannot help themselves but interject their nonsense directly into the marketing for this movie. And of course, considering the box office, how it's currently trending right now, this movie needs every single Marvel fan, audience member, and customer it can possibly get for this thing to even come close to sniffing out a profit. And things like this only ostracize even larger parts of the fan base. And if they were even thinking about going out there and spending their hard-earned money to see your movie at the box office, yeah, I bet they all rethink that and decide, you know what, never mind. I've spent enough of my adult life in the modern era listening to Hollywood bash all the fans and all the ideology just because I disagree with them on who should have been president. You know what? I think I'll spend my money elsewhere. Maybe I'll go see Superman over there at the DC. So, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to check out this article from thatparkplace.com, getting all of the juicy details, and of course, show you the video itself so you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,100. We are sailing our way towards 22. I think we're sitting at like 2,105, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below later what you think about this. Does it surprise you at all, coming from another Disney Marvel actor, that they're putting their politics front and center and deciding to bash large portions of their audience, continuing to ostracize even more of the fan base? Or are you another one of those little woke acolytes of the cult out there who completely and totally agrees with them and would love to see all of these people thrown into space as well? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below, because as always, all opinions are welcome here. Also, if you support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, from our dear sweet Marvin Montanaro over at thatparkplace.com. In a recent promotional interview for Marvel's The Fantastic Four First Steps, actor Ebon Moss-Bachrach and Pedro Pascal sparked controversy when Moss-Bachrach suggested that if given his character's powers, he would throw fascists into outer space. Of course, fascist is a term commonly used by left-leaning figures and Hollywood celebrities to describe President Donald Trump, and his supporters prompting Pascal to high-five him and exclaiming effing A. So we're going to watch the video here in just a second. So you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe That Park Place. You don't have to believe Marvin. No, you can hear it directly from the horse's mouth themselves. But as to add a little context to all of this, let's go back and touch on Pedro Pascal's history just a little bit as to the kind of times where he puts his politics front and center out there for everybody. The exchange, which some would interpret as a veiled reference to lethal action against Trump and his base, was captured during an IMB fan Q&A on July 25th, 2025. So literally just a few days ago, right on the cusp of this movie premiering over the weekend. Has gone viral and the film's front-loaded, underwhelming box office performance, raising questions about Hollywood's intersection with politics. So it's one of them situations here. Well, let's go back to this because this is where we want to get to before we jump into the video. So Pedro Pascal, known for his roles in The Mandalorian and The Last of Us, has a well-documented record of criticizing Trump and his supporters, frequently invoking fascist comparisons to brutal evil regimes of the past. In November 2020, shortly after the U.S. presidential election, Pascal posted and later deleted, because of course, I'm sure somebody inside the Disney or his agent or somebody with half a brain still left in their head inside of Hollywood went, "Hey, stupid, what are you doing?" An image captioned that way equated Trump voters with historical oppressors. Losers in 1865, losers in 1945, losers in 2020. Make America Great Again hat. Yeah, boy, I wonder what they're insinuating. Maybe that everybody that supports the MAGA movement is nothing more than a fascist. Boy, I wonder why Pedro Pascal high-fived him. I'm sure they weren't referring to President Trump and all of his supporters. No, of course not. He's also shared memes and statements like Trump's opening policies to authoritarian regimes. In 2018, Pascal posted side-by-side images of sites horrid atrocities in Europe juxtaposed with modern U.S. immigration detention centers, applying parallels under Trump's administration. By the way, Barack Obama's the one who built all of those detention centers. These instances suggest Pascal uses fascist rhetoric pointedly against Trump's era politics, lending credence to interpretations that High Five endorsed Moss-Bachrach's comments in similar vein. Moss acclaimed his role in The Bear has been less vocal publicly, but has shown criticism of Trump. In 2020, he mocked a Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, highlighting Make Space Great Again shirts and what is called a debacle, referring to the event's low turnout and controversy, which obviously, if you actually know what happened during any of that, it was basically like a bunch of people out there bugged the system, thinking that they needed to thought they were going to be able to overwhelm the system and make it to where no actual Trump supporters could show up. The reserved tickets online were just to give them an idea of how many people showed up. You still actually had to get your tickets at the door of the event. So it really didn't make that much of a difference. And the sign wasn't near as bad as what they thought. The pictures that they showed were like literally, the ones that he was probably using in his Twitter post were literally like before the event even started. The post aligns with broader Hollywood skepticism toward Trump, though it stopped short of explicit fascist label. Searches for additional quotes reveal limited direct statements. Moss has not frequently engaged in political discourse on social media or in interviews, focusing more on his acting career. Well, I guess things have changed, but color a shock there when you hang out with a soy boy like Pedro Pascal. Now, let's reset the stage here just for a second. Remember, the question was asked by the interviewer here, right? What would you do if you had your powers in real life? Obviously, like we said, the Human Torch said he'd do a barbecue for his family. Well, what did Ebon say? What did Moss-Bachrach say? Well, here's his answer.
There's a handful of fascists that I would just throw into outer space.
There's a handful of fascists I would just throw into outer space. Yeah, I'm sure this couldn't possibly allude to who's currently in the White House and parts of administration in any way, shape, or form. Boy, I wonder why people aren't showing up to go see Fantastic Four. I wonder why it had the largest Saturday drop in MCU history. Because the only people that are showing up are the soy boy hardcore Marvel freaks and fanatics that agree with this stuff and the reviewers. I mean, literally, like, I cannot wait to see that weekend drop. They're estimating it to be at 60%. But considering how things have been going for the Hollywood estimators out there, it's probably going to be higher than that because they have underestimated or overestimated this movie the entire time and doing both in order to make it to where it would look good for the movie, both of which have ended up with egg on their face and caused them to scramble to adjust their predictions and still failed miserably once again. Boy, I wonder why this movie is suffering at the box office. And hey, everybody's laughing. Nobody looks uncomfortable in this at all. They're all smiles on their faces. So what do you think that means about the personal political agreements and leanings of the entire rest of the cast? And yes, I know. Right? The majority of Hollywood's already been woke or left-leaning or whatever you want to call it for basically forever, right? And that's not really true. What Hollywood has actually been is traditionally classically liberal, right? That live and let live, that bohemia, let people do kind of whatever they want as long as you're not hurting anybody else, right? That was always the key to that because they pull a lot of their ideology from paganism and all that kind of heresy, and somebody get me a heavy flamer. But one of the ideologies of that, know thy enemy, right, is, do what thy will, but harm none. That's kind of been the classical liberal ideology, right? Even when they're empathetic about things, even when they're trying to take money out of your pocket and give it to some pet project of theirs, right? It's because they have a bleeding heart. They care about people, right? But it was never about necessarily enforcing their ideology upon you, right? That's where things change when you get into the spirit of the age, right? When you get into the woke politics, the new political correctness, whatever you want to call it, okay? That's when things change. Because then it goes from, hey, just live and let live, man. Who cares who marries who? If it's a dude or a chick and a chick or a man and a woman like God intended. Whatever, man. It's just a legal document, right? And then it went to, we're going to indoctrinate your children. We're going to have drag queen story hour. We're going to teach your children about inappropriate adult things in kindergarten, right? And that's where the line was crossed. But people like this that are sitting here all smiling and laughing, the elites among us, that they all look down upon us as nothing more than serfs, right? These folks out here all agree with that ideology, whether outspoken or not. Obviously, there are examples throughout Hollywood that don't, right? Those are normally the most quiet about all of this kind of stuff. But because we know the ones that have spoken out get ostracized and canceled. So you either go along with the politics of Hollywood, keep your mouth shut, which automatically makes you suspicious to everyone around you, or you fall in line. And whether these people are lying or not, it doesn't matter. If you're agreeing publicly, that tells me all I need to know about you. That whether or not you personally agree with this, you are publicly willing to proclaim it. You are publicly willing to be an acolyte for the spirit of the age. You are publicly willing to be an apostle for Lucifer himself and the ideologies that come straight from the depths of hell, right? So this is what I know of these people. This is the public face that they are presenting, laughing and giggly and agreeing with Ebon here, wanting to throw the people that he deems as fascists into space. And they're all giggling and laughing. But of course, we already know soy boy Pedro Pascal's Mr. I have to grope every female co-star I have because I have anxiety and I'm not just a complete and total creep, right? Well, how does he respond? Well, we already know his politics. So, of course.
That's what I would do.
That's what I would do. F and A. the cast of this movie got fat paychecks up front. Because if any idiot agent or any idiot executive inside of Marvel lied to you and told you that your residuals off the box office or this movie on streaming or broadcast anywhere in the future was going to make you a bunch of money, well, guess what? The only people that are going to be having the last laugh are people like me, common sense folks out there that enjoy and revel in the fact as all of you laughing clowns have your houses burned down around you in the metaphysical sense that this movie is going to lose Disney Marvel hundreds of millions at the box office, which means there will be no profit from this movie in any way, shape, or form, and you will literally get no residuals. And if any of your agents did lie to you and tell you that this was going to be a good idea, you should fire them immediately. But you know what? Obviously, since none of you will ever listen to this advice, the beauty of it is laugh all you want, you stupid clowns, because you are going to get exactly what you deserve. Because this movie, it'll be a miracle at this point if it cracks $500 million at the global box office. And I'll tell you right now, no matter what the trade magazines say, no matter whatever the activists and all you little wokies out there in my comment section say, this movie will never make a profit at the box office, and the toys from this movie will end up at Ollie's, just like all of the rest of the ones have had from our current MCU ran by Kevin Feige and Bob Iger, starring Pedro Pascal. Oh, just so funny. You know what's really funny? The box office of Fantastic Four. 241 million. After having all of the numbers come in from Monday and Tuesday. Opening weekend. 117,644,828. $828. Opening weekend. And DC, a complete and total reboot with a bunch of mostly completely and totally unknown cast to the general audience out there. $125 million domestic opening weekend. $125 million. Almost 8 million more than Fantastic Four, who has name recognition, obviously with Pedro Pascal, arguably with Vanessa Kirby. But you know what else Fantastic Four had? Marketing. Look, there's the cone of happiness. Not doing so well on that one. How's Superman doing? Oh, Superman nicely inside of the cone of happiness. But you know what Marvel had going for it? You know what Fantastic Four had going for it? Literally an abysmal run of movies and television shows since post-Endgame that the fans have almost universally despised, that have arguably all, with the exception of Deadpool and Wolverine, lost money at the box office. Same thing with how well fans liked that one. Deadpool and Wolverine is obviously the anomaly because it didn't come from Kevin Feige, Bob Iger, or Disney. It came from Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, and what is left of the Fox Marvel brand out there. Fantastic Four, on the other hand, had, with the exception of WandaVision, mostly failed, and Loki Season 1, mostly failed television shows. Obviously, we had Echo and Agatha and Secret Invasion and all of those things that continued to devastate and destroy the Disney brand. I mean, She-Hulk, anybody? I'm sure that really made a lot of fans happy and they couldn't wait to see things. Even Daredevil Born Again, bringing back almost all of the original cast, bringing back John Bernthal's almost universally loved Punisher. Still could not reverse the trend of Disney Marvel shows not charting on the Nielsen ratings and only having the ratings continuing to go down over and over again. It has not, contrary to all of the hype from all of the trade magazines out there saying how the Fantastic Four was going to reverse Marvel's box office trend. It has not. All of the estimates were way over. And this movie, when reality smacked it in the face, lost money and had a Monday that was worse, not only than Superman, but Captain America, Brave New World, a.k.a. Captain Black America, and Thunderbolts. And I mean, do we even need to talk about the Marvels and their numbers? So literally, outside of that record-setting opening Thursday night previews and Friday's decent numbers, this movie has done nothing but decline. Sunday at a slight, not horrible loss from Saturday, but mind you, that's not really saying much considering Saturday was the worst drop in MCU history. Boys and girls, the marketing for this movie did nothing to save it. If anything, it has only ostracized more of the fan base with comments like this, saying that if he had the Thing's power, he'd throw a bunch of fascists into space. And then Pedro Pascal and the entire rest of the team giggling and laughing like a bunch of hyenas. But like I said, it doesn't matter. They can continue to live in their echo chamber. They continue to think of us as idiots and ists and phobes and scum of the earth and people that need to be thrown in space all they want. Because it doesn't matter. For a few different reasons. One, God is still on his throne in heaven. Jesus still loves you, even these people as well. And 2 + 2 still equals 4. Because these numbers don't lie. This movie is going to lose Disney Marvel money. It is going to be a flop. And marketing like this, and attitudes and elitism and narcissism is what's led to this and will continue to lead to this. The only question we have now is, what excuses are the trade magazines going to make up for this flop? Bob Iger blamed the flop of the Marvels and the Thunderbolts on the fans not watching a bunch of Disney Plus series as to where these characters had showed up in the past, right? I don't think you can really account for the Marvels not even breaking $200 million globally on just that. But you admitted that nobody watched your television shows. And then when it was Captain Black America, a.k.a. Captain America Brave New World, you admitted that it did not have Captain America in it. Then that's the reason why the movie failed. So what's going to be your excuse with Fantastic Four? It's all original characters. They're not from any Disney Plus Marvel series. So the excuse you used for the Marvels and the Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers, that's not going to work, right? There has never been any other version outside of the absolute abomination and garbage rug pull that you had all the fans excited for half a second of Mr. Fantastic in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Absolute Abomination and trash, garbage, confusing stuff that even Scarlett Johansson admitted made no sense whatsoever. Movie. You're not going to have that excuse either. So what are you going to come up with now? Is it going to be blame the fans? Is it going to be call us ists and phobes and fascists? Or are you just going to quietly never speak of this movie ever again? And your hot new thing, you know, the whole adage from Nickelback of the list of today's who's who and the latest dictionary? Yeah. Because guess what? Pedro Pascal, despite all of your trying, is not on the list of today's who's who for the audience, for the fans out there. Nobody gives a crap about him or the rest of the Fantastic Four cast. And going out there and pushing this agenda and shoving your politics into the middle of the marketing for this movie is exactly why it will have, well, why it's already had the largest Saturday drop ever and will only get worse from there. This movie is going to flop and it is going to fail. And Pedro Pascal, Kevin Feige, Bob Iger, and the rest of everybody behind the marketing for this movie have no one to blame but themselves. It didn't work since Endgame, and it's not going to work now. Fantastic Four will lose money, and you have no one to blame but yourselves. You danced with the devil, you pushed his ideology, and now you are going to get burned. Fantastic Four is a flop, and you can't deny that.